What is going on, good people of YouTube? It is me, Chavez, back with another Prize Picks video for you. Today is Wednesday, March 15th, 2023. We got 7 games going on in the NBA today. And as always, I hope this video finds you all doing well and in good spirits. In traditional format, we'll kick things off with a recap over yesterday's picks. We'll talk about some injury news in the NBA, and then we'll dive on into our player props. I have 8 player props that I want to share with you, so I'm going to move through those pretty quickly as to not make this video 60 freaking minutes today. So with that being said, and without further delay, let's jump on into those picks from yesterday. Looking at our picks from yesterday, I'm going to say we finished 1-1. I don't want to count that PJ Washington prop as a win, even though it didn't technically lose. But we want the over on props. So looking at the total landscape of the day, we had one prop that definitely fell short, and that was KCP's 4.5 first half points. Just didn't get it done. I think he only took 2 shots in that first half, made one, hit a technical free throw, and that was it for him. So that was a little disappointing, thinking that he could get us at least 5 points in that game versus Toronto. Just didn't get it done. Then we have our one prop that did definitely go, well, it went under, and that's what we wanted. So Julius Randle, we took the under on his 43.5 PRA, finished the game with 38. You could have also taken his under on, the under on his fantasy points, where he only finished with 43 fantasy points. I think his prop was set to 46.5. You could have also taken the under on his first half fantasy and his second half fantasy, because overall he had a very mild game compared to what we saw versus the Lakers, which is what I thought we'd see, and that's why I like the under on his total game PRA. And then PJ Washington hit his number but didn't surpass his number, finished the game with 5 rebounds. That was a little disappointing because he had 3 rebounds in the first quarter. Looked like he was well on his way to grabbing 5 in the first half, let alone, we needed him to get 5 or more in a game. Again, just didn't work out for us. So 1-1 on the day. You may look at this as a 2-1 day, but I am going to look at it as a 1-1 day. Today, however, we look to bounce back and go, man, look, we got 8 player props today. I would love to finish 8-0, but honestly, I'll take a 6-2, 7-1 day, all day, every day. So without further delay, let's jump on into some injury news, and then we'll talk about those player props. Injury report for today. We got Jaylen Brown in, Kuminga probable, Kyrie Irving, Rudy Gobert, Alperen Sengun, Christian Wood, Tim Hardaway Jr., Kyle Lowry, Naz Reid, Austin Rivers, Jalen McDaniels, all questionable. And then out, we got Luka Doncic, Anthony Davis, and Cody Zeller. Okay. Let's dive on into some player props now. A couple of these props are from the same game. So like I mentioned, let's go ahead and just zoom through these. I do want to give you some insight into why I like these, but I won't be spending too much time talking about each one. Let's start with James Harden's assist. And then from the same game, I want to talk a little bit about Joel Embiid. And I like a few props for him today. Points being one, PRA being the other one, and then points and rebounds. Let's head on over to props.cash, pull up some game logs, and check out what these guys have been up to over the last 10 games. All right, starting with Harden's assist, set to 10, not 10.5. We can see that he's hit this prop 5 out of his last 9 games, 10 or more assists. Now, he did miss that one game on the 7th, came back, dropped 8 assists on Portland, 14 assists on Washington. But looking at his game history, or his history versus Cleveland, we love this positive history versus Cleveland. So last game they met, he put up 12 assists. Overall, going back to last season, he's hit 10 or more assists in 6 out of the 7 meetings they've had. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. He's gone over 10 in 4 of those, but he's hit at least 10 in almost all those games. So very, very positive history versus the Cleveland Cavaliers. I really like this prop for James Harden today, and I just can't see him not getting at least 10 assists, especially with the way Joel Embiid has been playing. We'll talk about his points here in a couple of seconds, but those two guys feed off each other well. So I really feel like if Joel Embiid is scoring points, it's going to be off James Harden assist, and so that makes me like the over on his 10 assists today even more. So talking about Joel Embiid's points, let's check out what that looks like over his last 10 games. 6 out of his last 10, he's gone over this prop. He's giving you at least 32. That one game against Milwaukee ended it with 31, hooked it at 31. So it could have been another game right there. We could be looking at 6 games in a row where he's hit this prop, but we'll take 4 out of 5 for sure and 6 out of 10. He's just been playing so well lately. Definitely playing with some intensity, trying to make a push for the MVP, and the 76ers are still trying to win games. This season is not over, so they're still out there. They're still clawing and scratching for every game they can get. Points look good over 31.5 for Joel Embiid. Let's talk about his points and rebounds, which look honestly even better. So 8 out of his last 10 games, he's hit this. Now against Cleveland specifically, we can see he's 1-1 on the season and hitting this prop. Going back to last season, he's hit this prop in 4 out of those 6 games. So another example of positive game history right here. And since we like his points, we like his rebounds, let's take a look at his points, rebounds, and assists set to 45.5. Same thing against Cleveland. Really positive history versus Cleveland. 4 out of those 6 games he's gone over. Taking a look at this season, 1-1 on the season, and then overall, over the last 10 games, 8-10 and hitting his PRA prop. I like the over on all these props for Joel Embiid. So those are going to be your 4 props from the 76ers and Cleveland Cavaliers game. All right, we're heading down south to Miami. I want to talk a little bit about Bam Adebayo and Jimmy Butler, rebounds and free throws made. Let's head on over to props.cash and pull up some stats, and I'll show you exactly why I like these props so much. Taking a look at Bam Adebayo's game log over the last 10 games, we can see that his rebounds have not been there for most of that time. If we toggle the splits to home versus all, we can see they improve a little bit, 4 out of his last 10 games. But one thing to keep in mind, or a couple of things to keep in mind with this prop, the reason I like it is the Memphis defense gives up a ton of rebounds per game, and they give up a ton of offensive rebounds per game. That's number one. Number two, there is no Steven Adams, there is no Brandon Clark, and so the Memphis Grizzlies are really counting on Jaren Jackson Jr. to defend the paint, crash the glass, keep people from crashing the glass and grabbing rebounds, and that's just not his game. That's prop number 1 from this Miami and Memphis game. And then I mentioned the free throw attempts for Jimmy Butler. I didn't mention it. I just pulled it up on the screen. But I like the over here, 7.5 for Jimmy Butler. And I want to go ahead and pull up just his total free throw attempts over the last 10 games. We can see that he's averaging roughly 11 over his last 10 and 12 over his last 5. Not just averaging attempts, but look at the percentage here. Let's toggle the splits to home, and we can see that his free throw attempts dropped slightly over his last 10 down to 10, slightly over his last 5 down to 11, but the percentage is there. I look at this, all this points in the positive, in a positive direction for Jimmy Butler's points, Jimmy Butler's free throws today versus the Memphis Grizzlies. So the final 2 props that I have for you are not going to be on the board, but they are fantasy score. Well, one's a fantasy score and one is a point score, but they're going to be for the second half. So I want to go over to props.cash and pull up some game logs and show you exactly why I like these props so much. We don't usually go with second half player props, but just digging into some information and just watching some of these games, I definitely want to attack these 2 lines today. Now, one of them we're very familiar with, and I'll save that one for the end. But this one, Russell Westbrook, fantasy points. Now, I can't pull up his fantasy points over on props.cash, but we can take a look at his PRA. Over his last 10 games, Russell Westbrook looks okay. I assume that his fantasy score, though, will be anywhere between 13.5 to 14.5 tonight, second half fantasy score. The reason I like to look at this and take the under is based off his minutes. Now, his minutes have been all over the place because You can see these two games versus Memphis and Sacramento. He played, I mean, he almost played the full second half. But then these last two games, Toronto and New York, he hasn't even played 9 minutes in those games. And I've noticed that his shot selection also has gone down recently. Or not even shot selection, shot volume. And really where Russell Westbrook makes his fantasy points is in his steals and blocks, because he's not going out in the second half and dominating usage like he did with the Lakers. Also, you have so many new faces on the Clippers now, and they're just trying to work all these guys into the rotation and get them reps. And then remember, turnovers count in fantasy points as well, and he's turning the ball over a lot. And not all these are happening in the first half. Some of these are happening in the second half. Now, I can't pull up that prop or that line over on props.cash, but it's safe to assume that at least two of those are happening in the second half. And last prop of the day, talk about Jimmy Butler over his second half points. Now, I took this over 12.5 last game versus Utah Jazz. He comes out and scores 16 points. So I like the over on Jimmy Butler here. I like this because the history there shows that he comes out strong in the second half. He's hit this in 7 out of his last 10 games. Going back to his one game versus Memphis way back in December, he's hit this. We can go back to last season. Not a big sample size here. He's dominating the usage in the second half. 7 shots versus that Memphis team. But over the last 10 games, I mean, you can see just the increase in volume here. Starting back on the 6th, I mean, 7, 8, 11, 14, 10 shots. I'll take 10 shots. And then free throw attempts in the second half. All this points to taking the over on Jimmy Butler's second half points. So there you have it, ladies and gentlemen. That is going to do it for today's video. We just covered 8 props that I like in the NBA today. Harden over assist, Embiid over points rebounds and assist. Bam Adebayo over 8.5 rebounds. Jimmy Butler over 7.5 free throws made. And then 2 second half props, like the over on Jimmy Butler's second half point prop, assuming that's in or around 11.5 to 12. And then the under on Russell Westbrook's second half fantasy score, assuming that's around 13.5 to 14.5. Thank you so much for stopping by the channel, checking this video out. Really appreciate the time you've taken to do so. Drop me a comment below letting me know who your favorite props on the board are. Also, let me know what you think about any of these 8-player props that we covered in today's video. Do you like them, love them, hate them, or do you want to leave them alone? Either way, let me know in the comments below. Thank you so much for all the support, the likes, the subs, the comments, and helping this channel just get a bit bigger every single day. And until tomorrow's Prize Picks video, Chavez is